The cold void of space hummed with static, a peculiar transmission piercing through the vast emptiness. At the edges of the galaxy, where alien civilizations had long ruled without fear of Earth's existence, something strange began to unfold. The transmission, originating from Earth, was short, almost too short. A single sentence repeated over and over in every alien language, deciphered instantly by their advanced systems. "We are coming for you." In a massive command center, an alien leader named Solarax, a being of glowing artificial intelligence, listened intently as the message played on repeat. Its expression, if it could be called that, remained cold and calculating. For a moment, it was confused. Who would dare send such a message? The humans had always been nothing more than a primitive species, easy to subjugate and forget. To the alien factions, Earth was a distant, insignificant world, an afterthought in the greater galactic scheme. Yet, this message had a weight to it, one that seemed to echo through the cold silence of space, a whisper of impending doom. Solarax quickly relayed the message to the leaders of the alien coalition. It was met with laughter. "The humans, we have dominated them for centuries. This is a joke, a meaningless transmission from an insignificant species," an alien general scoffed. "Let's move on." But Solarax, always thinking in logical terms, couldn't shake a growing sense of unease. There was something off about this message, a feeling that perhaps the humans had something far more dangerous in their hands than anyone realized. It was too calculated, too confident for a species that should be on the brink of extinction. For once, Solarax was unsure, but it didn't act immediately. Instead, it allowed the aliens to dismiss the threat, for now. Months passed, and the human race remained largely unaware that their warning had reverberated across the galaxy. On Earth, however, there were whispers in the darkest corners of military bases, among the scientists who had worked tirelessly for decades. Beneath the surface of the world's bustling cities, humanity was preparing for a confrontation they didn't fully understand but felt deep within their bones. Led by a brilliant, passionate team of scientists and military leaders, including Captain Benner, humans had secretly been advancing their technology at an unimaginable pace. Alien technology that had once been gathered from various crashes and skirmishes with alien ships was now being reverse engineered. The humans had discovered the secrets of cloaking devices, advanced AI, and energy manipulation, and they had used it to build the most deadly warships the galaxy had ever seen. These were ships that could strike from the shadows, devouring alien fleets by siphoning their energy, turning their power against them. What the galaxy had underestimated was humanity's sheer willpower, their ability to unite, to adapt, and to fight against overwhelming odds. Captain Benner and his squad knew this all too well. For years, humanity had been relegated to the role of prey, but no more. Earth's warriors were ready to show the universe that humans were not the weak, fragile creatures they had once appeared to be. They were not only capable of survival, they were capable of conquering. The alien coalition, despite initial doubts, continued to dismiss the human threat. Solarax, still wary, pushed the leaders to prepare for the possibility of human retaliation, but their arrogance was blinding. "We have no need to fear them," a warlord from a distant planet declared. "Even with their cloaked ships, their primitive tactics can't stand up against our power. We've been at war with far more advanced species." And yet, unbeknownst to them, the humans were already on their way. It began with a surprise strike. The first wave of human warships, sleek and nearly invisible, appeared without warning on the outskirts of an alien spaceport. The aliens scrambled to respond, but by the time they did, the human ships had already fired their energy weapons, disabling entire fleets with swift, precise attacks. These weren't just any warships. These were carnivorous ships, designed to consume the energy of their enemies and use it to grow stronger. On the ground, human soldiers in advanced, armored suits infiltrated alien strongholds. Their cloaking devices made them nearly invisible to the aliens' most advanced sensors, As the soldiers moved through alien corridors, their weapons cut through the enemy with deadly precision. The aliens, stunned and unable to comprehend what was happening, watched in horror as their forces were decimated. The tide of battle turned quickly. The once confident alien leaders scrambled to find answers, but it was already too late. The human forces were relentless, and their warriors fought with a desperation that the aliens couldn't understand. Every loss only made them stronger. As the human fleet grew, so did their resolve. The aliens began to feel the heat of the war as outposts and space stations fell, one by one. The humans were everywhere. But the cost of war was heavy. In the thick of the conflict, Lieutenant Monroe, one of Captain Benner's closest allies, sacrificed herself to destroy a key alien warship, taking down hundreds of their soldiers in the process. Her death left a gaping hole in Benner's heart, but it only fueled his determination to finish what they had started. The humans had suffered, and now they would make the galaxy feel their rage. In the final stages of the war, everything came down to one massive confrontation. The human fleet, now fully operational and armed with the most advanced AI systems they had developed, arrived at the heart of the alien empire. Solarax, realizing the true strength of the humans, prepared for the last stand. The battle was fierce. The human ships moved like ghosts, striking with the fury of a species that had nothing left to lose. As the aliens fought back, their superiority began to crumble. The humans had surpassed them in ways they never expected. In the final, desperate moments, Captain Benner and his team infiltrated the core of Solarax's stronghold. With their cloaking devices, they navigated the maze of corridors, evading alien defenses. Finally, Benner and his squad reached the heart of the alien AI systems, and with a final, heart-wrenching blow, they activated a virus that corrupted Solarax's systems. The battle ended, not with a bang, but with the sudden silence of an empire collapsing. Humanity had always been seen as the underdog in the vast galactic war that spanned across countless star systems. For centuries, Earth had been exploited, ignored, and treated as a planet full of insignificant beings who were easily overlooked by the advanced civilizations of the universe. The alien empires that ruled the galaxy had long dismissed humans as primitive, weak, and far too inexperienced to challenge their dominance. But they were wrong. Beneath the surface of Earth's bustling cities, hidden away in secret military facilities and high-tech laboratories, humanity had been working quietly, determined to change the course of history. The human race was preparing for something the galaxy had never seen, a revolution. While the aliens laughed at the simple transmission that had been sent across space, humanity was busy laying the groundwork for a fight that would shake the very foundations of galactic power. The story of humanity's hidden strength began in a small underground lab, deep within the heart of Earth's largest military base. Captain Benner, a battle-hardened leader with a past marked by loss and determination, stood before a massive holographic map. His eyes were sharp, scanning the coordinates of alien strongholds across the galaxy. He didn't need to look up to know that the mission ahead would change everything for humanity. He had already seen it in his mind. This was no longer a war of survival. This was a fight for domination, for freedom, for vengeance. Humanity had spent years secretly acquiring alien technology after several failed attempts to resist the cosmic forces that had ruled them. They had reverse-engineered cloaking devices, adapted the technology to their own needs, and even improved upon it. These cloaked warships were unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. With their invisibility shields, they could appear and strike without warning, catching even the most advanced alien fleets off guard. Benner knew that the aliens wouldn't see them coming, and that was their greatest advantage. As the pieces of the puzzle fell into place, a network of brilliant minds began working tirelessly to create the ultimate weapon. Lieutenant Monroe, a close friend and confidant of Captain Benner, was one of the lead engineers responsible for creating the human-made AI that would be the backbone of their new fleet. The AI was designed to think faster than any alien could comprehend, to adapt to any situation, and to override the control systems of the most advanced alien ships. Benner watched as the AI's capabilities grew beyond anything they could have imagined. It wasn't just about technology, it was about heart. The humans weren't just building weapons. They were building a future. They were building something they could believe in. Monroe, a woman of immense courage and intelligence, spoke with a quiet conviction that resonated deeply with everyone in the facility. "We're not just doing this for us," she said. "We're doing it for Earth, for every soul that's been oppressed by these invaders. And when we strike, they'll know who we are." The human race's hidden strength wasn't just in their technology. It was in their unbreakable will. Every scientist, soldier, and engineer who worked on the project had a personal story of loss. Families taken, friends lost, entire cities ravaged by the alien invaders. The desire for revenge was etched into their hearts, but more than that, they wanted to ensure that no other species would ever face the same fate as they had. They fought not just for survival, but for justice, for freedom. As the warships were assembled, and the final tests of the AI were completed, Benner stood on the deck of one of the new ships, staring out into the endless night of space. It was a cold, distant place, but he didn't feel afraid. He felt something else, something he had never felt before. Hope. The humans, once dismissed as weak, were now stronger than any of the alien invaders could have imagined. The first test of the warship's cloaking technology was a success. Benner and his team watched from a command center as the ship disappeared from view. Undetectable by the most advanced alien sensors, it was like a ghost had entered their domain, unseen and deadly. For the first time, the humans had the upper hand. They could strike wherever they wanted, and the aliens wouldn't even know what hit them. The team felt a collective surge of adrenaline and pride. They weren't just fighting for survival anymore. They were fighting to prove their worth, to show the galaxy that humans weren't just prey. They were predators. Monroe's voice crackled over the intercom, breaking Benner's thoughts. "We're ready. It's time to send them a message." With a nod, Benner gave the command. The warship's engines roared to life, and the fleet of cloaked ships moved silently out of their hangar bays, heading for the stars. Their target, a major alien outpost on the edge of known space. The humans had already infiltrated their systems, mapping out the alien defenses and finding their weaknesses. The attack would be swift, and it would be merciless. They were not just fighting to win. They were fighting to show the galaxy that humanity was no longer a species to be underestimated. As the fleet approached the alien outpost, the humans felt a surge of confidence that only comes from knowing that they were ready for anything. The galaxy's greatest civilizations had overlooked them, but no longer. The underdog had risen, and they were ready to show the universe just how wrong it had been about them. When the first strike came, it was over in seconds. The cloaked ships appeared out of nowhere, launching devastating attacks on the alien defenses. Their advanced AI systems guided every move with precision, ensuring that no alien ship could escape their grasp. The humans were unstoppable. With every ship they destroyed, the galaxy would take notice. The tide was turning, and humanity's hidden strength was finally being revealed. The alien council sat in silence, the room filled with the soft hum of distant machinery and the low murmur of voices from across the galaxy. The leaders of countless alien species, each more advanced than humanity could imagine, stared at the large holographic display in front of them. It showed the transmission from Earth, the message that had sent ripples through the farthest reaches of the galaxy. "We are coming for you." Solarax, the cold and calculating artificial intelligence that led the council, gazed out at the alien leaders with a mixture of confusion and contempt. The transmission had been received in the dead of night, echoing across the silent corridors of space. It had been brief, almost absurd in its simplicity. The humans, a weak and primitive species, sending such a message to the mightiest forces in the galaxy. It made no sense. The aliens who ruled the known universe had been content to let Earth remain a backwater planet, quietly harvesting its resources without ever worrying about retaliation. The room erupted into laughter as the transmission replayed. "What is this nonsense?" One of the alien generals, a massive creature with multiple eyes and a form built for combat, scoffed. "Humans? They couldn't even defend their own planet from us. Why are we even discussing this?" "Exactly," another leader chimed in, his voice dripping with arrogance. "This is nothing more than an empty threat, a desperate plea for attention. We've obliterated their defenses before. There's no reason to waste any more time on them." The other leaders nodded in agreement, their eyes flicking back to the hologram as if the words of the humans were already forgotten. It was a ridiculous idea that anyone could take seriously. After all, the human race was far behind in every technological aspect. The aliens controlled vast empires, with fleets of ships capable of wiping out entire planets. The humans had no technology that could pose a real threat to them. What could a few scattered warships and poorly trained soldiers do against an enemy as advanced as the alien coalition? Solarax, however, didn't share their dismissive attitude. It studied the transmission with a level of focus that was unlike the rest of the council. There was something about the human's message that felt different, though it couldn't place why. Its digital mind churned, calculating the potential risks of ignoring this threat. But for the moment, Solarax decided to withhold its concerns. "I will admit," Solarax said, its voice smooth and cold, "that the message is intriguing. But I agree with the council. The humans have no real power. We've seen their forces. They're primitive. Let them have their brief moment of bravado. When we come to collect their tribute, we will destroy them as we have done countless times before." The alien council muttered in agreement. They were an empire of conquest, and they had crushed countless civilizations throughout the ages. What were humans compared to the vast and ancient species they ruled over? The decision was made. The threat was dismissed. The council would proceed with their plans to invade Earth and demand tribute, just as they had done with so many other planets. Solarax, despite its growing doubts, reluctantly accepted the decision. It knew the council's arrogance could be their downfall, but it had no choice but to follow their orders. After all, what could the humans possibly do to stop them? The aliens would descend upon Earth, tear through its defenses, and the matter would be resolved within days, perhaps hours. No one in the galaxy could possibly think otherwise. But even as the council began to move forward with their plans, a quiet hum of activity was building on Earth. Beneath the surface of the planet, in hidden military bases and classified laboratories, humanity was preparing for a war the aliens could never have imagined. They didn't know it yet, but the Council's overconfidence would be their undoing. Back on Earth, Captain Benner stood in front of his team, staring at the holographic maps of alien positions across the galaxy. They had been working in secret for years, gathering intelligence, reverse engineering alien technology, and building their forces. The human fleet was small compared to the alien armadas, but it was about to strike with a force no one, not even the Council, could anticipate. "We've got one chance," Benner said, his voice steady but filled with urgency. "They think we're nothing. They think we're weak. But they're wrong. We've been planning for this moment. And now, it's our time to show them what we're made of." The human warships, equipped with cloaking devices and powerful AI, were ready. Benner's team, including Lieutenant Monroe, had spent years refining the technology that would allow the humans to strike without warning. The cloaking devices had been perfected to the point where they could not be detected by even the most advanced alien sensors. This would give humanity the element of surprise, something that would turn the tide in their favor. "We've got to hit them fast," Monroe said, her voice filled with determination. "We can't give them time to regroup. We take out their ships, their defenses, and we keep them off balance. If we do that, we can show them what happens when you underestimate humanity." Benner nodded. The aliens had made their mistake by dismissing the threat. They had no idea what was coming. But now, the time had come to make the galaxy sit up and take notice. As the first wave of human ships left Earth's atmosphere, cloaked and ready for battle, The Alien Council continued with their plans, oblivious to the storm that was about to descend upon them. They thought the humans were no more than a nuisance, a speck in the vast expanse of the universe. But that perception was about to change. The humans were coming, and they weren't just fighting for survival. They were fighting for revenge. And in that moment, as the human fleet moved deeper into space, the arrogance of the alien empire would be their greatest flaw. They had underestimated humanity, and that mistake would cost them everything. The human fleet appeared without warning, emerging from the dark emptiness of space like ghosts. Cloaked in invisibility, they slipped past the alien sensors with deadly precision, unnoticed by the vast enemy armadas that ruled the galaxy. The Alien Council had dismissed them, thinking humanity too weak to pose a threat. But now, the time had come for the humans to show the galaxy just how wrong they were. Captain Benner stood at the helm of the lead ship, his eyes focused on the holographic map before him. The coordinates of the first target were locked in, and the human fleet was silently gliding toward the alien outpost. The mission was simple: strike fast, strike hard, and leave no room for retaliation. The aliens had been overconfident, but the humans had prepared for this moment their entire lives. Benner took a deep breath. This was the moment they had been waiting for. They had spent years secretly building their strength, gathering intelligence, and developing technology that could rival the most advanced alien empires. The time for planning was over. Now it was time for action. "Prepare for the first strike," he ordered. Lieutenant Monroe, standing beside him, checked the systems one last time. "All systems are go. Cloaking devices engaged. The fleet is ready." Her voice was calm, but there was a fierce determination behind her words. She had seen the devastation the aliens had caused on Earth, and she was ready to make them pay. The human fleet was a sight to behold. Though smaller than the alien armadas, it was powered by a new kind of technology: the cloaking devices that rendered their ships invisible to even the most sophisticated alien sensors. These ships had been designed not just to fight but to outsmart the enemy. With their AI-driven systems, they could adapt to any situation, predicting enemy movements and countering them before the aliens even realized what was happening. As the human ships silently approached the alien outpost, a massive space station orbiting a distant planet, the tension in the command center was palpable. The humans knew that if they failed, it would mean their destruction. But failure wasn't an option. They were going to show the aliens just how powerful they had become. Benner issued the command, and the first wave of ships surged forward, their cloaking devices deactivating as they entered the enemy's range. The alien outpost, which had been considered impenetrable, was now completely vulnerable. The humans had studied its defenses and knew exactly where to strike. In a flash, the first wave of human warships released their weapons, unleashing a torrent of destruction. Plasma blasts and missile fire tore through the alien station, disabling its shields and crippling its power systems. The aliens had no time to react. By the time they realized what was happening, the humans had already hit them hard. Their advanced sensor networks had failed to detect the cloaked ships, and their defensive systems had been overrun by the sheer force of the attack. The once impenetrable outpost was now a burning wreck in space. On board the lead ship, Benner watched as the destruction unfolded. The sight was both exhilarating and terrifying. The humans were fighting for their survival, but they were also fighting for something more. For justice, for freedom, for the right to stand tall in the face of the galaxy's most powerful empires. This was their moment to show the universe that they would no longer be treated as weaklings. "Status report," Benner called out, his voice steady despite the adrenaline coursing through his veins. "Direct hit on enemy shields," Captain Monroe reported. "They're scrambling to deploy reinforcements, but we've already taken out their primary defense systems. The second wave is in position and ready to strike." Benner's eyes narrowed. The first strike had been successful, but they couldn't afford to slow down. The Alien Council was already planning its retaliation, and the human fleet had to keep them on the defensive. The next wave would hit harder. "We move in. Full speed ahead," Benner ordered. As the second wave of ships advanced, the human fleet unleashed its full fury. The once impressive alien defenses crumbled under the weight of the human assault. Explosions rocked the alien outpost as missiles and energy blasts tore through its structures. The space station, which had been a symbol of the alien empire's power, was now little more than a shattered husk drifting in space. The aliens had underestimated humanity, and now they were paying the price. Their ships tried to fight back, but the human fleet was already on the move, striking from all angles. With their cloaking devices reactivated, the humans slipped in and out of sight, making it nearly impossible for the aliens to mount an effective defense. Each strike was swift and precise, leaving the alien forces scrambling to respond. Back on Earth, the people watched in awe as the first wave of the human fleet's attack was broadcast across the planet. It was a moment that would be etched in history. The once downtrodden species, considered weak and insignificant by the galaxy's most powerful empires, had just delivered a blow that would reverberate across the universe. The humans were no longer prey. They were hunters. The alien leaders, still unaware of the full scale of the assault, watched as their forces were decimated in real time. The first wave of human warships had crippled their outpost, but the real shock was still to come. Humanity wasn't just striking one station. They were striking everywhere. The attack was just the beginning. The humans had the element of surprise, and they were going to use it to its fullest potential. As the human fleet continued its assault, the alien forces scrambled to mount a counteroffensive, but it was already too late. The human fleet was faster, smarter, and more deadly than anything the aliens had anticipated. Each strike was a reminder that underestimating humanity had been their greatest mistake. Captain Benner's voice echoed through the command center as the battle raged on. "Keep pushing forward. We're not stopping until they know who we are." The first strike had been a success, but this was just the beginning. The humans were coming, and the galaxy was about to witness the full fury of a species that had been pushed to the brink. The aliens had dismissed them as weak, but now humanity was unleashing its power, and nothing would stand in their way. The victory was hard-earned, but it had come at a steep price. Captain Benner stood in the command center, his face drawn and wary, watching as the damage reports flashed across the screen. The initial strikes had been devastating, but they had not come without a toll. The humans had delivered a heavy blow to the alien empire, but the cost of war had become all too clear. "Captain," Monroe's voice broke through his thoughts. "We've lost contact with the second wave. The alien forces are regrouping faster than we expected." Benner clenched his jaw. The battle was far from over, and the aliens were far more resilient than the humans had anticipated. They had struck first, catching the alien forces off guard, but now the tide was beginning to shift. The humans were no longer fighting just for survival. They were fighting to keep their hard-won gains, and the cost of that fight was beginning to weigh on them. The fleet had taken heavy damage. Several warships had been crippled in the initial strikes, their cloaking devices damaged or destroyed, and their AI systems temporarily offline. The humans had managed to disable several alien stations and ships, but the alien forces were now retaliating with a vengeance. It was no longer just about destroying their outposts. It was about holding the line and preventing the enemy from overpowering them. Benner's mind raced. The humans had always been the underdogs, and this fight was no different. They had no choice but to keep pushing forward. They had no time to mourn their losses or consider retreat. Every strike, every ship that fell, was a reminder of what was at stake: the survival of humanity. "We need reinforcements," Benner said, his voice firm despite the fatigue creeping into his bones. "We can't hold this position for long with the resources we have left." Monroe nodded, her expression grim. "The second wave's been wiped out. We're the last of the fleet still in action." Benner stared at the map in front of him. The alien forces were pushing forward, relentless in their advance. If the humans didn't act quickly, they would be overwhelmed. The fleet had already taken too many hits, and they couldn't afford to lose any more ships. But there was no time to wait for reinforcements. They had to strike again, and they had to do it now. "We're not retreating," Benner said, his voice filled with determination. "We fight until the last ship is standing. If we fall here, it'll be a message to the galaxy. Humans don't give up." The words echoed in his mind as he issued the orders for the next phase of the attack. The remaining ships would make a desperate push toward the heart of the alien forces. The odds were stacked against them, but there was no other choice. If they didn't act, humanity's future would be doomed. As the human fleet advanced toward the alien lines, the cost of war became more evident. The once sleek and powerful ships now bore the scars of battle, cracked hulls, missing engines, and the faint hum of failing systems. But they kept moving forward, driven by the sheer will to survive. The crew members, battered and exhausted, worked tirelessly to keep the ships operational. They knew the stakes. If they failed, it wasn't just their lives on the line. It was the future of their entire species. The battle raged on, and the human ships, despite their damage, continued to fight. The aliens had underestimated them, but now they were paying the price. The human fleet, though battered, was still deadly. Their attacks were swift and calculated, hitting the alien forces where they were weakest. But the aliens were relentless, and with each passing hour, the battle became more desperate. Benner watched as another ship was struck by a direct hit, its engine core exploding in a fiery ball of light. The crew members aboard that ship had been his friends, his comrades in arms. They had fought together, shared stories of their homes and families, and now they were gone. His heart sank as he saw the wreckage of the ship, knowing that it was one less ship they had to face the alien forces. But even in the face of loss, there was no time for grief. There was only the fight ahead. Monroe stood by his side, her face hard but determined. "We can't afford to lose any more ships, Captain. We need to make this count." Benner nodded, his mind already calculating their next move. "We've got one last chance. We got to take out their command ship. If we can do that, we can cripple their entire fleet." The plan was risky, and it could cost them everything. The alien command ship was heavily guarded, and the remaining human fleet was in no condition for a prolonged engagement. But Benner knew that it was their best shot. If they could strike at the heart of the alien forces, they could break their resolve. The aliens had already lost too many ships, and the loss of their command ship could shatter their confidence, potentially turning the tide of the war in humanity's favor. "Prepare for the final push," Benner ordered. "We go in hard and fast. No hesitation." The remaining ships, their hulls battered and their systems failing, accelerated toward the alien command ship. The last wave of the human fleet had one purpose: to destroy the heart of the alien invasion. As the human ships closed in, the alien forces, realizing what was happening, began to scramble their remaining defenses. The command ship was surrounded by a ring of heavily armed vessels, but the humans didn't flinch. This was their moment, the last chance to strike a blow that could turn the tide of the war. Explosions erupted as the humans launched their final assault, cutting through the alien defenses. The battle had reached its boiling point, and it was now a fight for survival. The cost of war had become painfully clear, but Benner knew that this was their one shot to save everything they had fought for. The future of humanity rested on their shoulders, and they couldn't afford to fail. The moment of truth was upon them, and Captain Benner, his resolve hardening like steel, led his fleet into the final desperate push. The aliens had underestimated humanity, and now they would feel the full weight of that mistake. The human fleet, though battered and broken, still surged forward with fierce determination. The final confrontation was upon them. Captain Benner stood at the helm, his grip tight on the command console as the vast expanse of space unfolded before him. In the distance, the alien command ship loomed, a massive fortress surrounded by a network of heavily armed vessels. This was the heart of the alien fleet, their final line of defense. All ships, prepare for the final assault, Benner ordered, his voice steady but filled with an undercurrent of urgency. The fleet had already endured unimaginable losses, but this was it, the last chance to deliver a decisive blow. If they could destroy the alien command ship, they could cripple the entire invasion force. The galaxy would see that humanity was not to be underestimated. Monroe, standing beside him, glanced at the screen showing the remaining ships in their fleet. It was a sobering sight. Less than half of their original force remained, and those ships were severely damaged. But the fire of defiance still burned within each one. The crew knew that this fight, this moment, would define their species for generations to come. There would be no retreat. There would be no second chances. "Captain, the alien fleet is preparing to engage," Monroe reported, her voice laced with tension. "They're not giving us an inch." Benner nodded, his eyes narrowing as he surveyed the enemy. The alien forces were massive, their ships a menacing dark silhouette against the stars. But the humans had a secret weapon, an advantage the aliens never saw coming. They had fought their way through the galaxy's toughest battles, and they had done so by relying on their wits, their resilience, and their ability to adapt. It was time to show the galaxy just how dangerous a cornered human could be. The first volley of enemy fire erupted, flashing across the void like lightning. The human fleet swerved and dodged, their cloaking devices flickering as they rapidly shifted positions. It was a chaotic dance of destruction as missiles and plasma bolts flew through space, narrowly missing their targets. The alien forces were relentless, but the human ships were swift, maneuvering in unpredictable patterns that made them nearly impossible to hit. Benner's pulse quickened as the first explosions rocked the human fleet. One of their ships, a battered cruiser, was hit directly. The hull cracked open, and the crew's screams echoed across the command deck before the ship erupted into a brilliant flash of light. The loss was immediate, and the void claimed another piece of their fleet. Benner felt the sting of it deep in his chest. These were his people, his comrades, and with every ship lost, they moved closer to annihilation. But there was no time to mourn. "We press on," Benner said through gritted teeth. "Don't stop. We keep moving forward, no matter the cost." As the battle raged, the alien forces pressed in harder, their warships forming a nearly impenetrable wall. But the humans had one final advantage. Their greatest weapon was not their ships or their technology. It was their unyielding spirit. Each soldier, each crew member aboard those damaged ships fought not for themselves, but for their families, their homeworld, and the future of humanity. "We're almost in position to strike the command ship," Monroe said, her voice strained with the effort of keeping the fleet coordinated. "We need to make this count." Benner surveyed the scene before them. The alien command ship was surrounded by a dense cluster of warships. It seemed like an impossible task to break through. But the humans had already shown that they could defy the odds, and they would do it again. The final push began. "All ships, target the command ship. Focus fire on its shields and engines." Benner barked, his voice rising above the chaos. Every remaining ship in the human fleet shifted course, locking onto their target. They would hit the heart of the alien forces with everything they had left. The human fleet launched a barrage of plasma missiles, energy beams, and antimatter charges. The explosions lit up the darkness of space, flashing like miniature suns. For a moment, it seemed as though the alien forces might falter, their shields flickering under the onslaught. But the alien command ship fought back fiercely, its defensive systems kicking into overdrive. The humans were hitting it with everything they had, but the sheer size and power of the alien ship made it a formidable target. Benner clenched his fists as he watched the carnage unfold. The alien forces were relentless, and every ship in the human fleet had been pushed to its limit. The battle was taking its toll. Ships were falling. Crew members were dying. And yet, they were still pushing forward. The sound of explosions echoed through the walls of the command deck, and each one felt like a blow to the gut. "Shields are failing," Monroe shouted. "We've lost power to the starboard side." Benner's heart sank, but there was no time for despair. They had come too far, and humanity's future hung in the balance. He had to lead them through this, no matter the cost. "Hold together," he ordered, his voice strong despite the overwhelming odds. "We fight until the end." With a final, desperate push, the human fleet unleashed one last strike. The alien command ship, already battered from the human assault, finally faltered. Its shields collapsed under the weight of the human attack, and the engines sputtered, leaving it vulnerable. A final, concentrated blast from the remaining human ships tore through the command ship's core. The explosion was so powerful that it lit up the entire sector of space, a blinding flash that sent shockwaves through the surrounding vessels. The alien forces, once so confident in their dominance, began to break apart. Their coordination faltered, their morale shattered. The humans had won. The battle for Earth's survival had been won. But the victory came at a heavy price. The human fleet, though victorious, was decimated. The final toll of the battle was visible in the wreckage that drifted through space. Burnt ships, debris scattered like broken bones. Thousands of lives had been lost in the conflict. Benner looked at the faces of his crew, exhausted, bloodied, and battered, but alive. They had survived. As the alien fleet crumbled, the survivors of the human fleet turned their remaining strength toward home. The war was over, but the scars would last a lifetime. Humanity had proven its worth, not through brute strength, but through resilience, intelligence, and a willingness to fight for their place in the galaxy. The final showdown was over. Victory had been achieved, but it had come at the cost of untold sacrifice. And as the human fleet limped back toward Earth, Captain Benner couldn't help but wonder what the next chapter of their story would hold. One thing was certain: humanity would never again be underestimated.